focusing.
We're focusing. Hang on 1 second. Mr. Johnson, talk for 30 seconds. I know that's hard. A hard request.
Oh, yes. Let's
yeah.
see. Talking about what?
1 second. Let me just take this out of your way, and we're going to go just with the boom.
Just with the boom.
Just with the boom.
Don't hit me with a boom.
Gosh, we really don't want an audience. Ah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's see. What we
David, I wonder if you could help kind of clear the decks a little bit, just to... You look great, by the way. I know it's been a hard season, but you look really good.
Well, that's good because my mind has really been damaged by this. Really, it's swimming around, you know.
I know what you mean. But you know what? It sounds like it's all coming back.
I'm supposed to stick my tongue out
Hi.
at people.
Hi. I know.
Okay.
We're just gonna do this for a little bit, and then we'll be able to come be social.
I can hardly wait for a hug.
Okay. There we go. Now.
Go ahead.
So, Seward, one of the things that I've been asked a lot of times is about the title for If It Were Time.
Oh, the title, that is one of the most it's beautiful things about living as an artist, I think, because it came from my wife was writing a novel, and what was a novel? It was If It Was Time. And I've forgotten, it comes from some, if it was time or if it was useless or something like that. A statement that somebody in the 19th century made that had made some sense that in the 19th century. And so anyway, when I was reading her novel, her main character, Catherine, was a pianist. And she and her mother was a pianist, a famous worldwide pianist, and Catherine was very, very good, but she was reading a book about Monet. I was looking to see where Monet's name would be, and Monet. And Giverny, and I don't know. There's another place right on the English Channel. I can't think of the name now. And it was all fascinating me so much reading about it, and then getting the pictures of it, that it ended up making me having to build these places in our park. Because we had a lake and a lake shore and something I don't know, there was a wonderful French name for this place. It was on the shore of the English Channel. And so I duplicated it with a couple of flags and a young couple that were talking to each other. He had a top hat on, and then an older couple looking on. And I reproduced the whole scene, and then I went further. I built a sculpture of Monet with his easel, painting a painting, and painting a painting of my scene that I'd stolen from him. And so, and that's what art was always about in the past. Things like copyright and California image law and things like that weren't there to ruin the fun. And so but Monet he was before copyright, and so he wasn't protected from me. But I then, when I had him copying my thing, I called it copyright violation to make it that he was just to have fun with it, and and I've had a lot of sort of trouble with the French now because the French cultural attaché is writing. He just finished a book and gave me a copy about my work, and all working with our lawyers because I do have copyrights on my work, and where I play games with it and where I use it, it gets very complex, and the French are concerned about the complexity and whether there's consistency in the complexity, and I love their concern because I'm sincere and I sincerely like their sincerity, and but I love the fact that I give them some reason to worry.
No, I should not talk, correct?
Correct. I mean, have a conversation, but we'll be able to cut it all up. So don't
I'm
worry.
trying, yeah.
What's
so,
that?
that's why I'm gesturing, because I want my voice not to be on.
Oh,
But, Seward, you have talked a lot, if it were time, one
Yeah.
of the things you had to do was decide on the personalities of the older people sitting in the chairs.
Yes.
Can you talk about, like, their thought pattern and the lovers and what's going on?
well, the mother is carrying on about the young people. Sorry, and I think the father is either bored. He's pretending he's asleep, and so she'll stop. He has his eyes closed, and so it's his way of shutting her up a little bit. And
I noticed he has one eye closed.
oh, that's
facing
right.
Her.
That's right, and the other eye. And so I did that on purpose because she looked the type. I made her look the type that was a bit of a pain in the neck, and I love capturing interactions between people that are fleeting, and sort of say capture a way to people relate, and sort of catch them off guard in that. It allows humanity to come through, and in a sneaky way, and so it is more human that way because we don't, unless we're Donald Trump or something, we don't sort of flaunt our attitude. We try to gracefully allow it to peek out once in a while. And
So say you were going to have a drink with one of these impressionist guys, one of these artists that you now feel simpatico with because you've done the same image they have.
Yeah.
Who would that be? Who would you have a drink with?
well, I'd have the most to talk probably with Manet, because I mean he was so aware of so many human interfacings and things like that. He seemed to be quite sophisticated, and so but I love well, as I don't know, as you know, Paula, I'm working on a new piece where Monet was out in Giverny painting from his boat, and Manet did a wonderful painting of Monet painting, and and I was going to do a painting of Manet painting Monet painting, and I was going to call it viral art. Instead, I've slipped into the place because I realized that Winston Churchill, who also paints and is sort of he's very much like the Impressionists Yeah, and so I put him between me and Manet because he was alive before Manet died, and I was alive before he died, and so uh, the virus could have been gone through all of us, and so I am doing. I have done myself. I've done Manet. I've done Monet. I've done the boat, and I'm just finishing Churchill now. And I had Churchill's granddaughter up to criticize my work, and it turned out that she particularly loved a 1/3 size maquette I'd done, and then I turned it over to my modeling department and had them sort of take that and enlarge it, as it were. And she found all the fault in the enlargement. And so I said, well, of course I did that, that other piece. Everybody was laughing like hell because I made it look like I was trying to show off or something. And so but
I'm
it,
glad you're talking a little bit about your new piece because I
yeah,
wanted to, both the Bark and the Venus,
yeah.
which are stunning new pieces, and they're both inspired by Ray Don. Is there something about Ray Don, the magical quality?
Yes, he is the only one who has mystical, magical quality that doesn't have another side to it like, well, there was one that he did. He did the three witches, uh, uh, and I had them. I made a big cauldron with bones in it, and while there were families with all the children with them, and all around, I looked in the cauldron and I said, "We don't have any children bones in this cauldron." And all these little kids would grab their mom's hand and just scared to death. And so, but I can't help but do things like that. It's I am I have grandchildren, and I'm chairman of the Naughty Club, and so that and the granddaughter who I made her secretary, and when I did, her eyes narrowed, and she was ready to be as naughty as could be, and so I really am a bad influence, but it's
I think we should wrap up just because it's getting chillier,
Yeah.
and I want you to be
Oh,
more
yeah.
comfortable. So let's go inside.
okay.
Thank you
Right.
very much, Steve. I appreciate it.
We'll get some more.
I just
Did,
wanted to
did,
get a
did
little
we
bit-
get that all right? Will that can you? We aren't cutting it off in a funny way.
Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, I would do one more question. I just don't want you to.
Oh
get
no,
lost.
go ahead. Let's sort of round it so we can do something with it.
Okay.
I no, I'll insult both of you. How's that?
So, your Impressionist series, I want to kind of focus on that because we're going to be taking it more places,
Right.
and so we'll need more to go on. You mentioned that you would want to have a drink with Kaibat, or no, it was Manet.
Yeah,
But
it was
it's
Manet.
interesting
Yes.
to me that the Renoir dancing couples that you did, he did those paintings all in 1 year,
Mhm.
which is very interesting to see them then together.
Right. Yeah.
What was
mhm.
your desire in making those three dancing couples?
Well, they all express joyfulness and taking charge of the moment, and that is what human togetherness is supposed to be about to me, and I think, holy mackerel, they don't have anybody in here. God, it's great to see you. Well, it's no, but it's to me. I love to me, having fun is the only reason to accomplish something. I feel so silly, but when I do accomplish something, it doesn't do a thing for my ego. It it but it allows me to misbehave maybe, or to do something, or to it empowers me to do something that is fun. And that to me is a very good reason to accomplish something, is to be able to have that release. And so that's why I love the park. That's why I do sing-alongs in my park. That's why to do that with people, and then I'll tell naughty stories in the sing-alongs and things like that. It just it gives me that okay. And so that wraps up, and that's why I love expressing in my doing sculpture. I love to capture hidden moments when people are exhibiting something very personal about themselves, uh, that isn't seen too often. I love to capture that. So I really capture their private humanity, and so that's what I'm hoping to have in my work, is that essence.
That's
Okay.
beautiful, Stuart. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank
very
you.
much. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Old Westbury Gardens. My name is Nancy Kostopoulos, and I'm the president and CEO here at the Gardens, and I'm so thrilled to welcome all of you here this evening to launch one of the most exciting things Old Westbury Gardens has done in a very long time, and that is experiencing art in the landscape, featuring the wonderful works of Seward Johnson. And we are so thrilled this evening to have Seward Johnson with us. So please welcome Seward Johnson. You know, as we were planning this major exhibit, we knew that for Old Westbury Gardens, we needed something very, very special. And that this partnership with Seward Johnson was going to be a wonderful opportunity. Old Westbury Gardens offers unique indoor venues and outdoor spaces that are ideal for showcasing Seward Johnson's work. The unchanging sculptures with the ever-changing gardens actually makes a visitor experience that will be wonderful, and so we expect visitors to come back again and again as they experience the dichotomy that we see here. A couple of quick thank yous, please. I'd like to thank Wells Fargo. They have been a corporate sponsor for the exhibit, and they have been a very generous partner for Old Westbury Gardens for many years. So thank you very much to Wells Fargo. Also, I'm thrilled that we have so many of Old Westbury Gardens trustees here this evening. And I'd like to recognize Carol Large, who is the chairman of our board. Where are you, Carol? And also Lorene Knudsen, who is our vice chairman. Where are you, Lorene? Right over here as well. And as I said, many other board members are here this evening, and so thank you very much for your support of this initiative. And I'd also like to extend a special thanks to Old Westbury Garden staff, because so many people here at Old Westbury made this happen. And in particular, Mara Brush, who is our Director of Horticulture, and Paul Hunchak, who is our Director of Visitor Programs and Visitor Services. Those two spearheaded this initiative from the very beginning and drove it all the way through to the end, and it's clearly we have something extraordinarily special here, and I want to thank them very much. And importantly, I'd like to thank the team from the Seward Johnson Atelier, and in particular, Paula Stokey. She has been the curator of this exhibit here at the Gardens, and it's been a wonderful partnership with them. Paula has come from California many times over the last several months in order to be able to pick out the specific pieces and to work with our horticulture department in order to site them in just the most special way. And she's been here all this past week helping to do and work on the installation. She's a very experienced curator and has curated exhibits all over the world, including Rome, Madrid, and Berlin, and she's worked with Seward Johnson for more than 25 years. So I'd like to bring Paula up here to tell us a little bit more about the exhibit and about our artist Seward Johnson. So thank you all very much again for being here this evening, and welcome to Paula Stokey.
Thank you, Nancy. I have had the extraordinary pleasure of being here for a week, and I now want to move right in because it was almost every day when we would leave at about 7 p.m. It was like a Disney movie come to life where the bunnies would come out and they would be playing with the feral cats and the foxes and the snapping turtles. I really expected little bluebirds to come out with ribbons to tie around things. It's the most beautiful place, and it is an ideal marriage to bring these sculptures, in particular these Impressionist-based sculptures, to this location. As Nancy mentioned, I have been working with Seward Johnson for many, many years, so I've seen these pieces in locations all over the world, and I have to say there are some of the most appealing, viscerally appealing settings here where the sculptures almost walk into the space and settle in. When we have a beautiful sunny day, I encourage all of you to see all 32 sculptures because there are pieces down by the pond, down by the lake, down by the Temple of Love. So you'll have to find all of 32 of them when you take your walks. Today I wanted to just mention a few things about Seward Johnson's career and his lifetime as an artist working in the public realm. This is an unusual thing because his sculpture is very often just, placed in the locations where we get to see him every day. When people are walking to work, people are going to school, they run into the Seward Johnson sculptures and they sometimes ask them for the time or directions. They're fooled, they do a double take, and that brings a great deal of pleasure to Mr. Johnson because he said to me just this afternoon, he does this for the fun. And if you have an opportunity to speak with him tonight, you'll see he has a fantastic wit. His sense of humor is irreverent and fantastic, and he just really enjoys people, and he enjoys creating this connection between his artwork and the people who get to see it. Nancy mentioned a couple of the cities. His works are all over the world. They're in Hong Kong, they're in Sydney, they're in Tokyo, they're in China, Australia. I mentioned that. It's now become kind of a global Seward Johnson world, and when you travel around, you'll probably now start to see them everywhere you go. I do. This year, we're doing this fantastic show here, and next year we're going to be doing shows in France. We started with Paris last year and Belgium. So if you're in your travels, you can always find our website and see where you can see other Seward Johnson sculptures. But I so appreciate you all being here and being so embracing of this work and embracing of Seward Johnson. He's a wonderful individual whose career has affected so many people and, in fact, affected the landscape and the world of public art. So I'd like to introduce him to you now, Seward Johnson.
Oh boy, this is really wonderful. I mean, it is fun being a sculptor. I did my first piece, so I had to wait until I got fired from the family company, and I was painting. We were painting landscapes. My wife and I'd go out and paint landscapes. My wife's over here, and we. And I was telling her I'm having all kinds of fun. I'm painting nudes, darling. And it's great fun, but I feel as though I'm not getting anywhere. Oh, thank you. I mean, I hope I was talking loud enough, but anyway. And I said, and she said, well, you certainly seem to be artistic, and did you ever think of doing what a sculptor does? And it was a very strange feeling, because it was as though she, without doing it, had punched me right in the chin. And I was really so taken with it. And then she reached in her pocket and took out an advertisement for a sculpture class. We were living up in Cambridge, Mass. then, and I went to the class, and the professor was talking about styrofoam, and you can carve it with a saw and do all kinds of things, and which fascinated me because I knew I didn't know how to weld. I could do a lot of things mechanically, but welding I hadn't learned, and I knew I'd have to weld armatures if I was going to do plastiline sculpture. And so I was being a little bit timid. But so anyway, then the professor in the second half of the class started to talk about art theory. And I'm a dyslexic. And I said to the professor, I have this terrible stomach ache, and I wonder if I could be excused for it. Never went back. I got myself a studio and did my first sculpture of a nude in a fetal position, and cast it in polished stainless steel. And I took it down to him to get, when I got it cast, I took it to a foundry, and they said, I can't believe this is your first piece. And I said, well, they didn't let me in this place, they didn't let me in that place. I don't know what it, and anyway, so he said, do you mind if I entered it in a competition? I said, be my guest, and he did. And it ended up winning an international prize with 11,700 entries in the competition. I never got another prize, but it was so crazy. And they gave me my prize in the Plaza Hotel in the Grand Ballroom, with U.S. Steel, and they said, how's it feel? I said, crazy. And that's how it was. I mean, and then I, because I was dyslexic, I wanted to make a school that, if I felt I designed the school, then other people like me might be able to get something out of it or something. I don't know. I felt so at home in school that I couldn't stand it. And so anyway, I designed the school and kept having more people get them off the street to help me make sculpture and things. And within 4.5 years, I had people from 24 countries going to the school. And it became really well known, to the point that the man who was in charge, the professor who was in charge, I was 38 when I made my first sculpture, believe me. I didn't know. But this was, so I was about 42 by then. And so he came up, Eldon Taft was his name, and drove up from Kansas City, the University of Kansas, and asked me to take over the International Sculpture Center. And I thought he was crazy, but so I said I would, because I like doing crazy things. And so I ended up holding a symposium down in Washington, D.C., and while I was doing that, Mrs. Mondale, who was the vice president's wife, loved the arts, and she was helping. And she would put on one of our T-shirts, go in the ladies' room, put on a T-shirt, and then come out and so she came up and visited my school 8 times up in Princeton, and just was so in love with the stupid atmosphere. I mean, we were all crazy, you know. We'd all quit for lunch on Fridays and be mostly a liquid lunch or something like that. We'd all, and who knows what we ended up doing. And so it was really wonderful. And we ended up putting in, I think it was 230 some large sculptures all up and down between Baltimore and Washington, the Baltimore-Washington Expressway, and all around Washington. And I even put what now are against the law, and I love doing things like laser sculptures. And I put a laser sculpture on the Washington Monument that shot a blue laser to the White House, a red laser to the Capitol building, a green one to the Lincoln Memorial, and a yellow one to the Jefferson Memorial. And all my people from the school were putting up all these sculptures, and we were pouring molten bronze on the mall, and I mean, it truly was crazy, and it was improper in every way. I think impropriety is my favorite word.
Thank you, Seward.
Okay. Thank you for shutting me. Thank you for
Thank you all for
shutting me up.
coming. Woo! Now we can go enjoy the reception. Appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
My God.
I lost my memory between you.
It's still good. Well, you never know.
It does. Anyway, I'll see you on Wednesday. Yeah, of course. Are you going to review? Yeah. Did you want to 8:30? I told her that I could do 7:30. I have an email from him saying.
The traffic was so horrible, we barely got to Noguchi before they closed, and we had to mention Heather's name to let us wander around for a few minutes.
That's nice.
The traffic was horrendous.
I know, that's the way I feel too. This shopping is just, this is a multi-business.
You're in everything. It doesn't matter, Bruce. Look, you see you're going to be in hers too.
Too bad.
Now we have.
Say goodbye.
We're going to get him down to North.
I think you.
That's part of the fun of doing these things.
About for quite some time.
Yeah, I know. Just like
Jay Stewart Johnson. Of course, all the backsides of all the women.
thank you. Well, I told you I had super something tonight. I was worried about being
Oh, you have? Oh, you know, I never really understood what I was doing. Oh, thank you. But I just
I'm out of my mind. No, that's so bad. I thought you'd get they're laughing. They are just struggle. No, I didn't go by them. No. It was really hard. Everyone is beautiful. And I was sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Can I move this back?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just going to show you a picture.
Thank you. That's very
Okay, that's very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Put that pen away because we're not signing anything else. We made a.
But it's very interesting about it's not understood that they learn
They gave me an honorary doctorate degree, and they were joking because they knew I flunked everything in school. And so they teach me how to put my hat and my cloaks on to get my honorary degree. So I got an honorary doctorate.
All right. Who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now, right?
Yeah, right. I sort of said,
Right on.
that's what life is about. Oh, yeah.
That was good.
Authentic, lovely castle, not far from the road. We have the best memories of the castle. Also New York. Yeah. But I thought it was 10 years ago. Oh, I reversed me.
You know 59, 59. Yeah. Great theater. I was mentioning.
I've just seen 2 important musical shows there. And so I'm thinking of that as a venue for
Oh, you did bring up this. All right, well, get it going.
Well, step at a time.
We're seeing